pagans go, where the fires are high and the candles glow. Take me down to that magical place where they're dancing and swaying at a feverish pace. Take me away on a mystical ride, moving through the veil to the other side. Fill me up with spirit songs of power and love's alive. Take me down where the pagans go, where the fires are high and the candles glow. Take me down to that magical place where they're dancing and swaying at a feverish pace. Take me away on a mystical ride, moving through the veil to the other side. Fill me up with the spirit songs of power and love's alive. Take me down through the 7 gates where I'll cast my being to the hands of fate. Take me down to the dragon's lair where myth and legend ride the air. Let me rise on the messenger's wings, let me see what the future brings. Fill me up with the spirit songs of power and love's alive. Take me down where the pagans.
Welcome to another edition of Keepers of the Flame. I am your host, Reverend Alicia Lyon Fulbright, and this week we are doing a show on Rhiannon. This is actually a subject that's near and very dear to me. Rhiannon is a goddess, a Welsh goddess, and I've been her votary for many years now. And she's also the reason why the Panthean Temple exists, the reason why this show exists, and why I'm doing the work that I'm doing. So I thought I might honor her with doing an episode just on her. This is the first place where I was actually published. This is Cakes and Ale for the Pagan Soul. This was edited by Patricia Telesco. And there are many different authors and leaders that were published in this book. And mine is the goddess's call to service. She moves in mysterious ways. And I thought it might be nice if I opened up by actually reading my story. I actually have not read the original and edited version, although it's been on my blog for a little while. And because it was actually published, I legally have to state that the first published edition is in the Cakes and Ale for the Pagan Soul. I'm going to start with a quote. How can you come to know yourself? Never by thinking, always by doing. Try to do your duty, and you'll know right away what you amount to. And that's Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. At our Beltane festival this year, I watched something very special happen. A dream that I had given everything to had suddenly come to life. Our theme was community, and what we achieved was completely amazing. We brought the pagan community together for the first time as a community in truth. Our differences no longer mattered and seemed to melt away with friendships taking their place. The love was tangible, as was the magic of the weekend. It was the finest magical work the members of my temple and the community have ever done. It took a while for it all to sink in, as I realized what we had manifested on all planes. The congratulations and compliments rolled in over email, including quite a few personal ones for me that really made my day. I can breathe a sigh of relief and relax now that it's over, since it was so much work. But now even my mind can truly rest easy, since I know for certain that my temple is becoming what it was meant to be. I had to laugh to myself when I realized that I had come to learn how to handle adversity, but I had found myself a little flustered in handling success and the attention it brings. It wasn't always like this. It's been a very hard, long, rocky road, having spiritually grown up in the open community. I've joked that running a temple is like the old slogan for the Peace Corps, toughest job you'll ever love. It was harder, maybe, than it had to be at times, and perhaps more so since I was forced to grow so quickly. I had so much work to do on myself. There have been days when I came very close to throwing in the towel, quitting the church, the community, everything. But there have always been signs that have presented themselves to me that kept me from doing so. The deities move in mysterious ways. Look for and pay attention to their signs, and they will show you what you need to know and what you need to do. I have finally found some success, can consider my temple established, and have earned my place in the community after struggling for so long. In many ways, the temple has been my child. Through my creation of it, it has noticeably taken on a spiritual life of its own in the last few years. This temple will be 9 years old. Now, mind you now, this is when I wrote this. And it will be officially taking its adult name of the Panthean Temple. I'm very proud of who we are now, and we'll be able to accomplish great things in the future. Everything that the temple and I have gained has been hard-won. I gave myself over totally to the dream of a pagan church, and have made personal sacrifice after personal sacrifice to make it manifest. But it still feels like a miracle. I've watched many who are leading in the community find themselves forced into the role of elders simply because they've been practicing a few years longer than most, and without having elders of their own to fall back on. I, too, find myself in this category. I've been pagan for a long time, but I am by no means an elder, and yet I must fulfill this role within my church as its high priestess. I am lucky in that I at least know a few elders I can go to with my questions or for support. My generation has its own set of obstacles to cross just as much as the last in bringing the old religions into the future. For those who have been called to service, this story is for you. If you lead or will lead someday, to never lose heart. You must know that you aren't alone in the work that you must do, and the work must be done. It's just too important. Never give up. I should warn you, if you ever choose the path of leadership, know that those who lead are often forced to progress in the path more quickly. Considering that the old religions are already paths of deliberate growth, this is no easy undertaking. You will be challenged in many ways that you never dreamed, and the personal work that you must do on yourself to become effective priest or priestess, to grow into the oversized shoes of leadership is enormous. Leading in the community will shape you and temper your soul like a sword, to be placed into the hot coals so that the raw steel of who you are might be forged. Each and every challenge is another blow to the metal, shaping you and making you stronger until you find yourself a very different person from the person you began as. And you must grow if you wish to succeed. You simply have no choice, since the universe will demand it of you. In the time since I began the pagan community church, there have been many local covens that have started, and other groups, but have also fallen. We might be small, but Connecticut's first pagan church has endured, still stands, and so do I. In order for you to tell me to tell you my story, I have to start at the beginning of my path, which is devotional. I am a votary of Rhiannon, and she is our temple's matron goddess. It would be impossible for me to tell you this story without including her in it, since she has everything to do with it. Every year at the Feast of Rhiannon, I again tell my tale of experiences and my series of coincidences that have led me here. It needs to be understood that without her, a temple would not exist, and I would not be leading in the community. My introduction to the old religions began when I met Jolene 20 years ago, a high priestess from California, through a local chapter of the SCA, the Society for Creative Anachronisms. She wasn't teaching at the time, but she did give an excellent reading list to me and my then boyfriend. Those were the good old books, and the first ritual was also that I witnessed was one that she led. I was still Christian at the time, and my then boyfriend was pagan, and all of this was very new to me. I was going through a very trying time in my life, and she offered to do a tarot reading for me. She told me a good number of things, but what surprised me the most was what she said about my future. The high priestess card had come up. She told me that I would be a priestess one day, and that I would do something significant for the Wiccan community. And when I stammered, "But I'm Christian," she replied with a sympathetic smile, "I know, but this is what I see." Little did I know that in the years to come I would spend all my energy answering a call that I had no choice but to answer. I had always assumed that I would just go to art school and become a fantasy book cover artist. Being a priestess was not at all something I had planned. A year later, after I had first met Jolene, she moved back to the West Coast. I had also decided by this time I was pagan and that my journey began. I've never looked back. Over the last several years that I had become pagan, my life and my perspective of it had noticeably changed. The doorway to the world of spirit seemed to throw itself wide open. I was now in my early 20s, and it had been many years since I had had true visions. As a child, they were overwhelming, knocking out my senses and blotting out the world around me. I did not expect to have another vision, a waking dream again, but one came anyway. and it was a vision that was to change the direction of my life forever. A goddess came to me and asked me if I would serve her again as I had before, and she offered me her hand. Without hesitation, I said yes and placed my hand in hers. And the vision left as quickly as it came, and was left wondering who she was, and there was an image left in my mind of a white horse. So I searched for a horse goddess in my books and finally found Rhiannon. It felt right, but was it her? Was I imagining things? It had been so many years since I had had visions. I was about to completely write it off as too much imagination when something else came to my mind unbidden. I was told to go to a store that I knew had just opened up, but I had never been there. I was told that there would be a white horse, her symbol, waiting for me there. And I kept this to myself, and went with a friend a few days later to the store. As I walked in the door, there lay a carved white bone horse bead in a tray, one of many. I bought one and made it into a pendant. It's become a bit beaten over time, but I wear it still, to this day. And there is also a list of things that I knew I was supposed to do. It's kind of like a spiritual honey-do list that seems to grow every now and then. One of the first items was to form a pagan church. It made no sense to me originally. Who was I to start a church? I was supposed to become a priestess as well, and it was a pretty tall order. As a shy, quiet person, it was more than a little intimidating. I joined a group as the community first began to form, and was still quiet about my beliefs. I did learn from the group, however, a number of things I was not happy with, which to me are not a part of the spiritual path. When I left them, I made a silent vow to myself that if I did start a church, it would be very different. And over the next year, I discovered pagan chat rooms and was instantly hooked. I realized many people were just starting to network through the computer. I tried to organize things several times, but they didn't work out. So I tried again when the weather was warmer, emailed information about a pagan barbecue, and also posted flyers in stores. It worked, and quite a few people came out to the little backyard barbecue. I also started making connections with people who had also left the previous group. A few of us decided to hold circle later that year in my backyard on Samhain, and afterwards we discussed forming a new group. I told them about my idea of a pagan church, and they liked the idea, so we decided to name it. I felt it should have the word pagan since we would be open to many paths, and another person wanted the word community to be included. We all decided that we also needed to state who we are by adding the word church or temple to the name, and felt that Pagan Community Church had a better ring to it than Pagan Community Temple. And so our church was born, a church for the pagan community. Serendipity seems to have followed the church and I from the beginning. We found a pagan-at-heart attorney by accident shortly after we formed the church in a hallway right next to the mortgage company. He helped us incorporate as a church and receive our 501c3 status pro bono. I took this as a sign that our church was meant to be. The church and I have had so many things fall right into our laps right when we needed them. Even when I have bought items for the church, I keep getting what I call the goddess discount. I don't get charged full price on those items for a variety of reasons. Spirit always seems to find a way and creates an opening for me to do what I need to do. I was ordained as our church's high priestess and brought across by the group, but I was not prepared for the work I had to do. In learning how to run a pagan church, it made me painfully aware of my shortcomings. I had to learn more. I had to become more. I asked my goddess for a teacher, and I was pleasantly surprised. My teacher, Rowan, found me in the parking lot of the Department of Motor Vehicles. She asked me about my SCA bumper sticker and if I knew of any events in the area. And as we talked, the subject of paganism came up, and she told me that she was a priestess from Canada, but was living in Stamford at the moment with her boyfriend and his family. We exchanged phone numbers, and I went over for dinner later that week. She began telling me about the Wiccan Church of Canada, and when I realized how much she knew, I asked her to teach me. My classes began. She moved back to Canada, and we continued classes for a while long distance. She is now no longer my teacher, but she is still one of the most amazing spiritual people I know, and I am proud to have her as my friend. I still call her for advice, and she will always hold a very special place in my heart as my first teacher, someone who I could give perfect love and trust to, and who gave our church a great gift through not only imparting knowledge, but in showing me the understanding of that knowledge. It was a gift beyond price. But along with many gifts came drastic change. Running a church can in many ways serve as an initiation. The spiritual process requires you to shed illusions as a snake sheds its skin. What is outgrown must be discarded. I had to leave my boyfriend of 11 years publicly before the church was even 2 years old. It was a relationship that turned abusive, nearly broke me, and nearly broke the church. And looking back, I'm amazed the church survived it all. But for me to grow and for the church to have a future, I was forced to leave behind what was holding me back on the path. The next several months were very uncertain. I was emotionally shattered still, trying to run a church at the same time. The damage of the relationship, of losing my house, and of loss in general was more than I could handle. I was working at temporary assignments, making little money. I was scared and couldn't keep myself or the church going financially either. If I had to work 2 jobs, I wouldn't be able to run the church, and I knew it would fail without me. I also had to leave the apartment that I was sharing with a friend since she was moving, and I couldn't afford an apartment of my own. We had also been using the backyard of the apartment as a place to hold circle, and I had no other place to go. Beside myself and in tears, I went up to the Widow's Walk that night, which was above the apartment and overlooked much of the city. I began speaking to my goddess Rhiannon, and I told her everything. I told her that I needed her help. I told her that I needed a good job to earn more money to support both the church and myself. I stayed over an hour just pouring out my heart to the sky. I didn't know what else to do. I was at the end of my rope. I went to my assignment the next day. An agency called, the one that I had interviewed with by accident a few weeks before because the names of the agencies were close. They asked me if I would like to earn twice the pay I was getting, but they had no idea how long the assignment would last. I said yes and took a chance. It was also a desktop publishing job close to the graphic design field I was trying to enter. When I arrived at the front desk of my new assignment, there was a tall, pale, gray, horse-head sculpture made of stone. Signs come in threes to me, and if I only see one, I chalk it up to coincidence and nothing more. But then as I walked into the building, there was a huge abstract painting of a white horse. I expected to see a third that day, but I didn't. I didn't see anything the second day either. On the third day, I resigned myself to the fact that the signs meant nothing, and they placed me at another computer. It had a white Arabian for a screensaver that popped up when I sat down. I was certain now that my goddess was looking out for me, and that I had made the right decision. That job didn't last long, but it led me to other assignments, and I began my career in graphics as a freelancer. I suddenly had enough money to take care of myself and my church, which I largely funded out of my pocket for the next several years. With all this upheaval in my personal life, the upheaval also followed in the church life as well. I was pretty naive then, and I didn't realize that people can have agendas. One person decided to take advantage of my weakness at the time, and I fought my very first witch war. It blew apart the church, and in the end I found myself almost entirely alone. One friend, Ron, stepped forward and suddenly became my white knight to help me restart the church. He also stayed by my side as we rebuilt it with a few friends, and brought in others who would also help. When I went over to his apartment, I couldn't help but notice an unfinished, unframed oil painting of a white horse he had on his wall. He had rescued it from a dumpster, saying that it seemed a shame to throw it away. I didn't think of this as a sign until I later realized that his birthday was March 5th, the same day as the Feast of Rhiannon. And we rented a house together, which he found for us, and he became my brother in all but blood. And the church had a real home again, too, and we could once again hold circle in the backyard. Ron also started our festival, which began as a camp-out, but it was to become our big fundraiser towards purchasing land. Things went well for a while, and we still had some blowouts in the group. Ron moved to Vermont, and even more arguments and misunderstandings happened. New people took the place of those who had left, and we moved forward once again for a while. But the new people in the church and I were clearly not on the same path. I don't care what anyone says, but substance abuse, any kind of substance abuse, changes who people are and separates them from spirit. Seeing that I don't do drugs, and although I drank, I'm not interested in drinking heavily. This in and of itself created a rift. Like attracts like, and many of the people we began to attract were interested in parties and in secular activities, not the spiritual. To make matters worse, the house I had been renting had gone into foreclosure, and although I did try to buy it, in the end it went to auction. I then tried to buy it from the new owners, but the deal set off my instincts and my intuition, so I backed out of it and had to move quickly. I made plans to move in with friends while I looked for a new house and had 2 other places I could stay lined up just in case, and they all fell through the last minute. The money I had saved for the down payment on the house was suddenly absorbed by taxes for a year I thought my boyfriend had filed. This was when the dark night of the soul hit, and I seemed to lose everything, including the close friends who I would have stayed with. I ended up sleeping in a friend's living room while I looked for an apartment, and during this time I took a leave of absence from the church. I left others in charge and hoped it wouldn't be too long. My leave only lasted 2 months, but the church changed for the worse even in that short time I was gone. I received phone calls from members asking me what was going on since they didn't feel welcome when they attended. I also found out I was being torn apart behind my back at church events because I wasn't there. It was a lot to take. I hoped that I might be able to turn things around, but I was exhausted and ready to quit after my ordeal. By this point I was disgusted with the infighting, people trying to play King of the Hill games and others tearing down whatever I tried to build. I kept giving, and people kept taking. I did realize that the open structure of the church was part of the problem. I wondered where I might go spiritually, maybe form a coven or something. I was also tired of the people around me wishing to remain ignorant to the point where it was difficult for me to practice with them. I had a very real need and a hunger to explore the depths of the religion, ritual, and spirit. The church was no longer going in the direction it was supposed to and had deviated from its original mission of commitment to learning and sincere worship. In trying to find answers, I turned to priests and priestesses I know and asked them lots of questions, what worked for them and what didn't. I needed to understand why I was constantly putting out fires and never truly able to accomplish anything in the church as a result. I found my answer through someone in my own church who had been on the sidelines, who suggested creating more of a closed structure than the loose, open one we had. An outer court for others to learn and grow within, an inner court to do the serious magical work that would also refill my spiritual well, which had run dry. Spirit has a way of speaking to me, and I listened, and it said I would also become a teacher, and that we would become a teaching tradition. The well of my soul deepened, and I found many of the answers I was looking for. I knew what I needed to do, and I knew that this was what I had been missing all along for the church to succeed, a core of strong people who would do the work on all planes in erecting the temple, and I was to train them. I knew the way suddenly, and the mysteries began to unfold. Within all my troubles I had experienced lay spiritual initiation. Everything was burned away down to the bones. The way I looked at my world seemed to change overnight. Illusions were lost, but truth took its place as my higher self took charge. My spiritual gifts grew, and my spiritual senses heightened. My connection to spirit, nature, and divine deepened as my spiritual metamorphosis took hold. Still, I was unsettled and unsure how I was supposed to do what Spirit had said needed to be done. Also, I knew that others who were helping me run the church wouldn't be happy with my idea. They had become a little too in love with being the center of attention since they had their taste of being in charge, and it would draw attention away from them. I decided to visit the Church of Eternal Light in Bristol, a pagan spiritualist church. Their pastor, Reverend Marie Langer, and I are friends, and she was one of the few people who had been there for me during my dark night of the soul. I decided it would be a good place to find some healing and to find people who I honestly knew I could trust, and so I went to their Sunday service. They practice mediumship at their church and do open readings as a part of their services, and sometimes one of their priestesses came over to me for a reading and a message from her spirit guides. She told me, "What you are about to do will be much harder than you have ever imagined. But do it and know that you are on the path. Stay on the path, and it can be done. I hadn't told anyone about my decision to reform the church into an outer inner court structure and become a teaching tradition. It was a sign that strengthened my resolve. Again, opportunities presented themselves, and the Unitarian church we had been renting from for the winter Sabbaths had a library that could be rented for much less than the hall that we could use for meetings and classes. And an area next to the building would become our grove for SBATs. One of the rooms on the third floor could be converted into a library. Our church now had a permanent home. I presented my idea of an inner court and told the people who had been helping me run the church that they didn't have to join unless they wanted to. But this was something that I needed to do. The violent resistance that I met shocked me, and I expected them to try and throw me out of my own church. But in the end, they all left, every single one. I almost should thank them, because I learned from them everything I did not want in my church, and now was completely free to make the changes that were needed to turn everything around. I had learned from all my failures and experiences, and I took my leap of faith. I announced the formation of an inner court in our newsletter, and quite a few people applied. Too many. Someone else in the community had given me the advice, Alicia, whatever you do, if you decide to form a coven, don't announce it. And I should have listened. If it had been a smaller group, it would have been easier to see who people really were. A few were let go right in the beginning, because they too tried to change the direction the church was supposed to take. I was even told by them that we shouldn't run the festival, which is our main hope of our land fund and our future. As a new group which had just formed, I knew it would be very difficult for us to try and run the festival by ourselves. So I called the community together to help us run it. It turned out to be the best thing I ever could have done. We suddenly became a community-driven festival for the community. So now that it's 3 years after our structure changed, are we on the path now? You bet. The new structure I was forced to create has held fast, and I've been working on fleshing it out, creating the foundation for everything we'll do in the future. Our members are mature, and the church is finally stable. The spiritual work we have been able to do has been an amazing accomplishment, and it shines in the people who are with me now. The classes I've been writing for formal training have given birth to our new tradition. Uniting the community was also one of the items on my goddess's honey-do list. I never expected, though, that through bringing the community together would also strengthen who we were as a temple and give us an opportunity to accomplish greater things. I really do believe our festival will enable us to purchase land in the future, and the community at large will have made it all happen. I came across a powerful message this past year in an email. I wish I had seen it years ago. It read, "The goddess hasn't brought you all this way to make a fool of you, nor of her plans for you." And it's true. And this is my message to you through telling you my own story. When I got back in touch with Jelaine over email this past year to thank her for bringing me to the path, I had to laugh. It turns out she had been answering her own call, not entirely unlike mine. It looks like I'm one of the seeds that Jelaine Appleseed planted in her travels. Awakening people is a part of her spiritual honey-do list. And she told me that she was in the book Keepers of the Flame, and one of the co-authors is Morgana Davies, who I happen to know and I'm learning Reiki from. I didn't recognize Jelaine's picture when I had read it the first time, since it had been so many years, and I never knew her by her magical name, Zanoni Silverknife. Everything happens for a reason. In the end, there are no mistakes, and deity moves in mysterious ways. Persistence, determination, and my passion have helped keep me on the path. But my goddess Rhiannon has been my driving force. It's her work that I'm doing. My story isn't done yet, and every year I will have something new to share at the Feast of Rhiannon. I'm not going to kid myself. To do what I need to do this lifetime will never be a cakewalk, and there is so much work that lies ahead of me. I still have a temple to run, students to teach, and the greater needs of the whole community to attend to. And that honey-do list of my goddess somehow keeps getting longer. But at least I know that I am on the path, and as long as we stay on the path, that's all that really matters. And no matter what happens or how bad it gets, don't give up and don't lose heart. There are bigger and better things that lie ahead if you meet the challenges that the gods throw before you. And if you are called, that is all you need to know. Just answer the call, be true to yourself, stay on the path, and keep doing the work. The gods will never abandon you. Always remember that you are part of their plan. May Rhiannon's hoofbeats echo in your heart.
Rhiannon is the Welsh goddess of the moon and divine queen of the fairies. She was also known as the goddess Vivian, best known as the Lady of the Lake. Rhiannon, remaining true to her heart, married a mortal man named Pool, defying her family's wishes. She was also promised to an older man of her own people, but she did not love him. The two were wed 1 year after their meeting. Despite the family's differences, they had a bountiful feast and families rejoiced their marriage. Unfortunately, a quarrel broke out at the festivities. It was said to be the man she was promised to marry, making gestures she was not to marry from her own people. Rhiannon, using a bit of magic, turned him into a badger, caught him in a bag, tied it shut, and threw him into the lake. It was unfortunate for Rhiannon that he escaped, because later he would create havoc in her life. After 2 years of marriage, being unable to bear a child for the throne, her abilities were being questioned. Lucky for Rhiannon, within the next year she gave birth to a son. As was the custom then, 6 women servants had been assigned to stay with Rhiannon in her lying-in quarters to help her care for the infant. Having failed to do their job, they all fell asleep. When they awoke, the cradle was empty. The servants, fearful of punishment for their neglect, conjured a story that Rhiannon ate her son. They smeared blood on the sleeping Rhiannon and scattered bones of a puppy they killed. Although Rhiannon swore her innocence, Pool, faced with the anger of his advisors and the people, did not come strongly to her defense, saying only that he would not divorce her and asking only that her life be spared. Rhiannon's punishment was announced. For the next 7 years, the goddess Rhiannon was to sit by the castle gate and under the heavy weight of a horse collar, greeting guests with the story of her crime, and offering to carry them on her back into the castle. Rhiannon wept. Under her punishment, in the fall of the 4th year, 3 strangers appeared at the gate, a well-dressed nobleman, his wife, and a young boy. Rhiannon rose to greet them, saying, "I am here to carry each of you into the prince's court, for I have killed my only child, and this is my punishment." The man lifted Rhiannon up onto his horse, and the boy handed her a piece of the infant's gown. Rhiannon saw that it was cloth that was woven by her own hands. She recognized that he had the eyes of his father, Pool. The nobleman spoke of how he found the baby in a field and later believed that he was kidnapped by the old suitor she had rejected. Pool and the people recognized Rhiannon's son. She was restored to her honor and placed beside her husband once again. Although she had suffered immensely by their hands, Rhiannon, goddess of noble traits, saw that they were ashamed, and she was filled with forgiveness and understanding. The story of the Welsh goddess Rhiannon reminds us the healing power of tears and forgiveness. The goddess Rhiannon is the goddess of movement and change, who remains steadfast, comforting us in times of crisis and loss. This has been a Muse Flash, your source of inspirational news.
I read the name of it in a just a novel. I really liked it. I thought that's a really beautiful name. Sat down. About 10 minutes later, wrote Rhiannon. We think that she was in fact queen, and that her memory became the myth. I definitely feel that there's a presence.
This is a song about an old Welsh witch. Rhiannon rings like a bell through the night, and wouldn't you love to love her? She was alive like a bird in flight, and who would be her lover? Well, your life you've never seen a woman taken by the wind. Would you stay if she promised you heaven? Will you ever win?
Right is Utopia, and Utopia is these are two from our remaining. We bought 17 as babies. These are the only two that have actually remained on the farm. We don't know why, because there's nothing wrong with them, and they're gorgeous. But yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about how horses can get got started?
Sure. Well, it's actually our 25th anniversary this year. I actually had 2 horses of my own over in New Milford, and I had a guy stop at the place I was renting, and he asked me if I would take 2 horses. And of course, being a 17-year-old, I was like, no, thank you. I don't need any more horses. They're expensive. But I told him I'd be like, for 2 horses. His wife had passed away, and he was a college professor, and both of his daughters were in school. So he said there was nobody there to take care of them. So when I went to his house, both the horses they looked like this stone with fins over them. I'd never seen anything like that in my life. And they were very sweet like this. They were very attentive. They were beautiful horses. They could have been. One was an ex-race horse and one was an ex-show horse. And I agreed right there and then to give him $1 and took 2 of them home. Started working from his home. And basically, a couple days later, when I had the vet come up, the Connecticut Humane Society was the group at the time that was dealing with prosecutions. And they actually stopped the place and wanted to arrest me because they thought I had been abusing them. So I took them across the street and showed them my 2 horses and said, no, I just picked them up 2 days before and I had the vet up already and that kind of stuff. So actually I started working with them for the next 10 years. And it never stopped. You know, I always thought that this was the only time I was going to ever see starvation cases, and it has never stopped, sad to say.
And could you tell us some of the horses that got them that you rescued now?
Sure. These are the Pomerans, probably in the last 9 years. We've actually rescued 67 of them. A lot of babies, but also some of the moms, which is really sad because they have actually just been used as a breeding factory. And what happens to them, of course, is if they do not take with the breeding tank, because they're bred every 11 months. As soon as they give birth, they go back online again because their urine is used for women's estrogen tablets, which is Premarin and Prempro, the makers of. What happens to them, of course, is the same fate that happens to the babies that aren't purchased when they're off of their moms, which is they get sent to slaughter to other countries where they're used for food. Because of hoof and mouth disease and mad cow disease, every other country in the world except the United States. That things that, with their pets that no longer afford them, that think of selling them to a good home, just sold them to a killer buyer. And they're worth more money on the pound. The bill passed. The problem, of course, is going to be whether it passes through everything, and it's also now going to leave a glut of about 90,000 horses every year that normally go to slaughter. What's going to happen to them now? The problem is they haven't taken care of the whole thing yet. So hopefully they'll find some spots. The problem is right now we've got 37 horses here. We've got a 47-acre place, but we're pretty full. And a lot of the rescues that we know of are in the same boat. They have a lot of animals right now. It's been a very, very busy couple of years because I think the economical thing. Also, I think people get into it, especially the Pomeranians. Very cute little foal, but it's wild, and they don't realize that. I mean, these are the smallest two that I have. They're normally 16, 17 hands tall. They weigh anywhere from 14 to 1,800 pounds. And if you don't work with them every day, they can kill you. I mean, as simple as that. And a lot of people get hurt, and then they're down the road. Bye-bye. Don't care what happens to them. And it's a horrible ending for an animal that's never done anything to anybody in its life. It just was born in the wrong place. And you two are enjoying all this adventure. Thank you.
Tell people how they can help horses Connecticut.
We're looking for everything from volunteers to sponsors to people to help with monetary. Because it's an all-volunteer rescue, and nobody gets paid to be here. Everybody that comes here is just here for the love of horses. We've got about 60 volunteers now, but we've got 37 horses. Not everybody can get here every day. Most people work full-time and they either get here at night or, some come in the mornings and then, most of our people are to work on the weekends. But there's always plenty to do. These horses are groomed and handled every single day. And matter what the weather. Well, it also helps make them better for people to handle when they want to take them home.
What does somebody have to do if they wanted to adopt a horse from Horses Connecticut?
Basically, they have to come up and spend time with the horse. It's usually 6 or 8 visits. It depends on if they've ever owned a horse before or not. You know, if it's somebody that has a horse already or has several, it's easier for them to get one as long as they obviously take good care of their animal. They have to have vet and personal references. They have to come up and spend time, not only on the ground, but also riding them. You know, our final test before the horse goes home, especially if it's a young one like this and rideable, they have to be able to go out on the trail and handle them by themselves. Just a matter of obviously being safe. We don't want to send a horse home that somebody's going to get hurt with. I mean, that doesn't help anybody. You know, and then the horse ends up back, which to me, the worst stress they go through is moving. There's also a donation. It's required, you know, adoption fee on every horse. It goes anywhere from $600 to $2,000, and the young ones like this, the young sound babies, are $2,000. So we have everything here from ex-race horses and ex-jumpers and show horses to drafting and obviously, as you saw me.
This is Breezy. Breezy's a 15-year-old registered BLM Mustang. BLM stands for the Bureau of Land Management. That's where she came from. She was actually out of Nevada. She's branded on the left side of her neck, which all Mustangs coming from the BLM are. She was actually a state starvation case, and she's up for adoption also. Now, of course, she's on a diet. But the problem is that they don't always keep up with their horses that they sell. We could not find out who owned her before these people got her. Right. Because they don't keep records of them anymore. They only keep track of them for the first year. And she's probably the only Mustang out there, too, that also has front shoes. She doesn't like to rock, so she gets very ouchy, so she has front shoes on. She's a big showgirl now. Yes, you are. And the little girl with her is Endora. Endora is a 12-year-old miniature horse. She's actually kind of big for a miniature. She's 37 inches tall, which the normal is about 30 to 32 inches. And she was also a state starvation case. And I don't know if you can see on her left-hand side, she's actually got no hip. She walks on what they call fibrosis tissue. You can see how she stands now. The whole left side is dropped. She gets around okay. She has a hard time getting up on her own. We're actually trying to get the money together to do hip replacement surgery on her. Because she's only 12 years old and miniatures usually last about 40 years, you know, her hip won't last as long as her body will, and that's the sad part. She came back from the starvation, as you can tell, just fine. Just whether or not she'll be able to keep going on with nothing there to support her. Because right now she just drags the leg. When she wants to run, she actually just kind of hikes it up and she runs without it. So she's actually learned how to get around without it. They think that she got hit by a car before without it. She's not had a nice time. But she's a very sweet girl.
Most of the horses that come here are near death. They've been so severely abused or neglected that we're told they won't survive. And some don't. These did, thanks to your donations. We are Horse of Connecticut, a non-profit organization that has saved over 650 horses. Help us to save more lives. Donate today.
I love horses.
I'm Heidi, and today I'll be talking about the horse totem. If you have a horse for a totem animal, it shows that you know how to work as part of a team. The team may consist of others of like mind, for example a horse team, or others that have different ideas, a horse and rider. Horses also show that there is strength in numbers and that working together toward a common goal is easier as a team. Horse people are very independent. They are caregivers, but if depended on too much, they'll also buck like a bronco at the restraint. Horses have to be able to express themselves freely. Horse people have a dignity about them that cannot be diminished, no matter the task. Horses show travel coming, as well as safe travel. They can also symbolize astral travel. Horses give their riders the safety of speed and the promise of adventure. Native tribes use the horse to run, fight, send messages, hunt, and move their villages quickly. The horse carried people and their belongings into new uncharted territory and the challenges that it held. If horses come to you, you are being offered a gift of safe movement. Is there somewhere that you need or want to go? Horse can help you get there, whether the place is physical or spiritual. Is there a new venture you want to undertake? Call on horse to help you create it. Are there challenges in front of you that you don't want to deal with? If so, the horse asks you to awaken your inner power and move forward with courage. The horse also loves its freedom. With some species, such as the Mustang, it is meant that they're also almost extinct. The lesson to learn is to value your freedom, but not to the extent that you lose that same freedom. Horses are also very social animals. In the wild, they will stay with a fairly permanent herd. Even when not in the wild, horses that are stable together will come to recognize each other and miss their stablemates when they're not there. Riding a horse conveys a sense of freedom. It teaches that power cannot be attained by force, but rather that it is given to those who are willing to accept responsibility in a respectful manner. Just as the horse carries its rider on its back, the rider carries responsibility for everything around him. The power of the horse is the wisdom to remember that all the steps in one's life and learn from them. This includes experiences from a previous life. Real power is strength used with wisdom. This requires love, compassion, and the willingness to share one's achievements and insights with others. It is important not to let our ego deny us access to this power. In closing, I'd like to share a poem that I found on the internet. Pounding hooves, tossing mane, take me swiftly on my life's journey. Loyal friend, carry me to a place of safety. Lift me over the obstacles of my path.
See all the waves, white horses, wind in their hair. See all the waves, white horses, wind in their hair. See all the waves, white horses, wind in their hair. See all the waves, white horses, calling me to ocean. The waves, white horses, wind in their hair. See all the waves, white horses, calling me to all that is wild, all that is free, all that is wild, all that is free, all that is wild, all that is free, all that is wild, all that is free. See the waves, white horses, dancing below me. Oh, I long to fly like a migrating bird. Oh, I long to fly like a migrating bird. Oh, I long to fly like a migrating bird. Oh, I long to fly over the sea, over the sea. Someday I'll fly like a migrating bird, far, far away on wings of the wild to all that is wild, all that is free, all that is wild, all that is free, all that is wild, all that is free, all that is wild, all that is free. Dancing below me.
Keepers of the Flame is produced by the Panthean Temple. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider donating to the Panthean Temple. We are a 501c3 nonprofit temple and the first Wiccan and Pagan temple in the state of Connecticut. It is our dream to someday have land in a building. Please help us achieve this goal. And for more information about us and our events, please go to our website at www.pantheontemple.org. Please visit paganodyssey.com for Beltane, a Pagan Odyssey Festival, Connecticut's oldest and original pagan festival by the Panthean Temple. And please visit Keepers of the Flame at our new website at www.keepersoftheflametv.com.
Take me down to the 7 gates of cast my beam to the hands of Bingo. Take me down to the dragon's lair where myth and legend ride the air. Let me rise on the messenger's wings. Let me see what the future brings. Fill me up with the spirit songs of power and love's alive. Take me down where the pagans go, where the fires are high and the candles glow. Take me down to the magical place where the dancing and swaying at a feverish pace. Take me away on a mystical ride, moving through the veil to the other side. Fill me up with spirit songs of power and love's alive. Take me down where the pagans go, where the fires are high and the candles glow. Take me down to that magical place where the dancing and swaying at a feverish pace. Take me away on a mystical ride, moving through the veil to the other side. Fill me up with the spirit songs of power and love's alive. Take me down through the 7 gates where I'll cast my being to the hands of fate. Take me down to the dragon's lair where myth and legend ride the air. Let me rise on the messenger's wings. Let me see what the future brings. Fill me up with the spirit songs of power and love's alive. Take me down where the pagans go, where the fires are high and the candles glow. Take me down to that magical place where the dancing and swaying at a feverish pace. Take me away on a mystical ride, moving through the veil to the other side. Fill me up with the spirit songs of power and love's alive.